Welcome back to Homa Studios Python for Beginners series, and I'm kind of continuing where I left off with our previous video of working with strings, and we're just going to do a little exercise where we figure out the future age and future year of Steve, our character we used in the previous video. And we're just going to do some calculations with variables so that we're very efficient and we're not using absolute numbers, and we can update our values very easily, and then we're going to output with fstring like we did in the previous video as well. For this exercise, I'm just going to take an idea that I just threw out there in the previous video when we were messing around with strings and Steve, and I said something like, what year would it be when Steve turns 60? So I just thought we'd figure that out. We'll just use this as a little way to kind of progress through learning about variables and calculations and printing out here. So I'm going to keep this printout down here, and first of all, let me save it. So I'll save it as a new file, and I'll call this thing futureage.py, and I'll save it in the same folder. For my comment here, I'll just call it output, and I'm also going to change his age. I'll call it current age, and I'll also put something called current year. I'll make a variable called current year, and right now it's 2019. And again, what we're going to figure out here is we're going to say Steve will be, and let's just say future age, because we don't know yet if we're going to use 60 or what we're going to use, and we'll say future year. So we're going to say Steve will be future age in the year. So this is like a little story problem from math, and we don't need anything after here. We have a escape sequence of /n for a new line. I'll put one at the beginning inside the quote \n so that we get some spacing when we print this out. So what we're going to figure out here, here's our dilemma. Steve will be this age in the year future year. So we know that we're going to figure out when he'll be 60, and we could change that to be other things. So we can make a variable here called future age and say equals 60. Now this could change. That's why we're making a variable, because we might want to figure out what year it'll be when he's 70 or whatever. So future age is one of his variables that we'll use here, and we're going to say that's 60. And then we're also going to figure out future year. Now we don't know what that is yet, so I'm not going to put anything after that. But we can figure that out by taking 60 minus 51 and adding it to that. Now you could do that. You could just say 60 minus 51 plus 2019. Now you could do that, but since we have variables, we don't want to be using absolute values like this. And if you ever worked in Excel or anything like that, you know you want to use your formulas. You don't want to be using absolute values in case they change, because then you have to change things in different places. If the year changes, this has to change. If the future age changes, this has to change. If his current age changes, we have to change it here and here. So what we'll do is future age and then say minus current age, which will get us like 9. And instead of saying plus 2019, we could say current year. Now, I left my variables kind of long here so we could kind of follow what we're doing. We'd probably want to shorten them so we don't have to do a lot of typing. But what we're doing here is we're saying our future year variable is going to be the future age minus the current age, which is 9, plus the current year, which is 2019. So it's using these variables again. It's reusing them. So we now have our future year. We now have our future age. That's all we really need. We have future age, which is from here. We have future year, which is here. Let's see if this works. It says Steve will be 60 in the year 2028. Now, what about when he retires at 65? If that's still the retirement age, we could run this out. That'll be 2033. What about when Steve turns 80? If he lives that long, what year will it be when he turns 80, when he has a big 80th birthday party? Let's see. That'll be in the year 2048. So by using one variable here of future age, we could change this and update all these other variables. And we have these variables in our print statement already, so that keeps updating. So just by making one change, now obviously these would have to change because this current age might change based on when this is being done, but these are kind of our currents, these are our futures, and by making these little calculations here, and by the way, in terms of order of operations, we are going left to right, so we're able to do this and add that first. It's kind of like doing this. You don't have to put a parentheses on here, but it's kind of doing this first, but it is going left to right in terms of order of operation. It'll do addition and subtraction left to right, so That's why it's doing this one first and then adding it to the current year and coming up at that 2028 when it's 60, or coming up at 2048 when it's 80, or how about if Steve lives to 100? What year will it be? It'll be the year 2068. And before I end this, one thing I almost forgot here is we don't need to have Steve here. This could be a variable as well. So we can just use our F string and just put name in here. And then that's finished. That way, if Steve changes his name, that's updated as well. So we don't want to have anything that we already have a variable for and using Steve again. So we'll just put name in there. So we're using all our variables. So anyway, that's our future age exercise.